Hello students, Assalamu alaikum. This is your teacher Kanzareen from the Smartest School Sir Syed Ahmed campus. In today's class, we are going to learn about how to write a letter. But firstly, let us discuss that what is letter writing. So here's a definition. Letter writing is, you can say, the exchange or written or printed message. Distinctions are commonly drawn between the personal letter sent from family, friends, or acquaintance and the business letter. This is the formal exchange with business or government organization. In easy word, you can say a letter is a written message conveyed from one person to another person through a medium. That is letter. It can be formal or it can be informal. Okay, so in this class we are going to discuss that how to write a letter, whether it's a business or a personal letter. The skill you all need, we are going to discuss that. Sometimes these letters will be short and informal emails, or you can say the personal letter that you can send between your family members, friends, or family. Or other times they will be highly polished for corporate correspondence, means business letter that you have sent to some organization or for some business purpose, that are called the formal letter. In this video lecture, I am going to share with you some tips or steps to how to write a letter, and to share with you some advice, or you can say the journal tips, and also discuss with you the difference between these two letters, that is informal and the formal letter. Okay, so here is the classification of letters. That is, letters are broadly classified as the formal one and the informal one. Okay, before jumping towards the formal or informal letter, let's learn that how to write a letter. So here are some points that help you to understand, make you able to write the letter. Let's see. Here we have the point number 1. Let's tackle how to write a letter in proper order, from bottom, or you can say from top to bottom. These steps will mostly be directed towards a formal letter. The good news is that an informal letter is even more easier to write. You can dial back or remove a few of the elements we are about to discuss when writing an informal letter. So here it means that the informal letter are more easier than the formal letter. Okay, so now let's begin. To start, place your full address. To write a letter, what you have to do is to place your address, including your full name, street address, city, state, and zip code in the upper left hand corner. Okay, now the second point is skip a line and include the date. That after writing the full address, you have to write a date. Okay, and then skip a line and place the receipt full address where you have to send the letter to. Here you will want to include the company name, the recipient name, and the title and mailing address. Whatever information you have, the address or the mailing address, you have to write that down. Skip one more line to insert the greeting. Then what you have to do, you have to write a greeting. This is called the salutation. In a formal letter, you can use a generic to whom it may concern, or dear Mr. Harry or Mr. whatever. Formal letters tend to require a colon after the greeting, and informal letter takes a comma after the greeting. Okay, that's the difference between the formal and the informal letter. Let's look at the more points. Skip a line and begin the letter. Okay, after writing a greeting, what you have to do, you have to skip a line to begin the letter. in the body of your letter, separate your thoughts into a paragraph. Okay, what you have to do, you have to separate your thoughts in a paragraph. You never want to draft one big block of text. Okay, you have to write concise, like you have to use the limited thing of what you are talking about. For each new set of thought or ideas, begin a new paragraph. Okay, so what you have to do, you can say for every paragraphs carry a different thought, means you have to write one idea in one paragraph, like you do in the essay. You write one theme in one paragraph, and in every paragraph you write different theme, and in the end you give the conclusion. Now moving forward, skip one of your final line to include a complementary clause. Okay, you have to end your letter with a complementary clause, like the words such as sincerely, your, they conventionally come immediately before the signature of the letter. Okay, and express the sender regard for the receiver. That is called as complementary clause. See over here that your sincerely, your truly, gratefully, your obediently, this should end with a comma. Okay, now after that, skip 3 lines where you will insert your handwritten signature. Okay, as you see that at the end of the letter there's always a signature. Okay, so you had to put a signature at the end of the letter and type your full name. You may also include your title on the next line, like the same we do in the application. We write the name and we do the signature. Okay, next, if you are including an attachment with your letter, like if you have to send something or you write the letter and you send the attached document with it, skip one more line and type enclosure. If there are more than one attachment, indicate how many there are in parentheses and in enclosure. In enclosure, what you have to write down, you have to write down what you have attached to it and how many files or how many papers or whatever the thing is attached to the letter must have been written over there in the enclosure or parenthesis paragraph. Okay, so we have already discussed that how we can write a letter. The journal tips we already discussed with you. Now here's our more advice, or you can say tip for you to write a letter. With this journal formula in mind, let's review a few more details or tips. Firstly, you have to know your audience to whom you have to send the letter. Only use technical term or jargon if you are sure the reader will understand. Means that you have to use a term that is understandable by the reader or the audience, that the person who is receiving a letter from you. Okay, be clear and to the point. You have to be concise and you have to be clear what you are talking about, and the talk must be point to point. Okay, not irrelevant to any subject, or you just have to put the details that is relevant to your whatever you are discussing. Do not write 2 pages if one will do. You don't have to write in more detail, like you go and you write on and you make the 2-page letters. You don't have to do this. Leave out unnecessary details. You have to be more concise. You have to be more accurate. What are you talking about? As you reread your letter for accuracy, ask yourself if anything in there is unnecessary information, so cut that out, separate that out, and use the useful information that you have to mention or you want the reader to take a look on that. You just put that information in your letter. Okay? Now, remain professional. Do not include any threats or slander in your letter. Okay, what you have to do, you don't have to put any slander, or you have to remain professional. Like you have to talk whatever the points need to be discussed. You have to be on one ship. Letter can be either informal or formal. In informal letter, you doesn't need to abide by all the above standard that you have to know your audience. You actually know your audience when you are writing the informal letter. Okay, you don't have to use the technical terms, or you don't have to be like professional or like one-to-one business, but you can write whatever you want to in your informal letter, because that is the letter you are going to send to your relatives, your friends, and so on. But in formal letter, you have to be professional. Like they don't require a formal address at the top and to whom it may be concerned in the greeting. Okay, in formal letter you don't need to require a address or like to whom you are greeting. You already know your audience. Rather, you can get straight to a dear Mary greeting and can end with regards to or best wishes, like that. Okay, so informal letter is a personal letter, may come in the form of email, like that, but the premises remain the same. Means the above standard or previous statement or proportion for which another is inferred or follow a conclusion will remain the same as the formal letter. Okay, now let's talk about the informal, or you can say the personal letter in more detail. It is very important to know that how to write a letter of a personal nature, because personal letter are not as formal as business letter, and it can be handwritten or it can be typed. Like you can write by your own handwriting. Okay, informal letters can also include in slang or colloquialism. Means a word or phrase that is not a formal, or you can say literally, that you can use in literally, or you can say in ordinary life conversation. You can put that in the informal letter. It is optional to include the date in the upper left hand corner or your letter. It depends on you whether you want to write it down or you don't want to. You can just jump straight to an informal salutation ending with a comma or lot of colon. In the body, the first paragraph of informal letter is usually an introduction setting out the reason you are writing and why you are writing the letter, what's the purpose behind it. The next paragraph, you go into more detail. Okay, and in closing paragraph you summarize whatever you had to say above. You may want to thank the recipient or ask a question. The closing comes after the two skip lines. Okay, keep in your mind that the closing come after the two skip line and can also be informal. Use the word whatever you want to end the letter with. Okay, if you want to add a postscript to your personal letter, skip another line and start the postscript on the left hand side of the paper. Okay, now let's see the formal letter into more detail. Formal letter basically follow a set pattern. You have to follow the pattern which is set. Okay, as you can see in the example above, one type of formal letter that will be an important part of most of the people's life is the cover letter, resume. Okay, in the cover letter you will need to use a standard basic format, typically in the business or professional reports. You steer clear of construction. You might want to hold formal letter to the same standard. A cover letter should consist of approximately 3 body paragraphs. The first paragraph explains why you are writing this, what position you want to, and why you want it. The second outline, or you can say the second paragraph, why you are the best person for this job, for this position. You have to summarize your skill or experience, your knowledge in it. And in the closing paragraph, you have to mention your resume and ask for an interview. You need to be strong and upbeat and cheerful in this paragraph so the reader will want to interview you. Thank the person for his time and include contact information in the closing paragraph. Okay? I hope it's clear to you that what is formal letter and what is informal letter and what's the difference between these two letters and how can you write these letter. Okay, now moving forward,